One, Shabbat Shalom. This is Kennard, and here's my beautiful wife, Cherie Brown, and we're gonna again. I told you we're gonna incorporate liturgy as we go. I'm gonna go slow with it. What we're gonna do right now is just incorporate the lighting of the candles, which a woman traditionally does. A man can do it too, specifically if there's no woman around. But in this case, there's a woman around that I live with every day. My wife. So go ahead and you know how to do it. You've done it so many times. So and I realize that this is not you know according to time zones and so forth. But the main thing is that we're doing it, and people can review this and they can learn how to do it as well. Okay. So yeah, she is pretty. She caught my eye in Atlanta several years ago.
Thank you.
So she's going to read the blessing here, and it's in English. Hopefully, it'll be in Hebrew one day.
Blessed are you, Lord, our God, King of the universe, who sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us to sanctify the Sabbath. You are the light of the world. Let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. This is taken from Matthew 5:14 through 16. For my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared in the presence of all people, a light of revelation to the Gentiles, and the glory of your people Israel. Luke 2:30 through 32. And Yeshua was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it. John 1:4 through 5.
All right, so that's the traditional lighting of the candles to begin Shabbat. Along with that, you had the Kiddush, and that's something that we'll incorporate later on, where we have the bread and the wine, based in a scripture in Genesis with Abraham giving bread and wine to Melchizedek or Melchizedek, who was like a type of Messiah. That's another Bible study. And so we'll incorporate that. And then I wish we had some little kids around. We would do the blessing of the little children. That's also a part of the tradition. And then the Havdalah is something that you would do to end Shabbat. And maybe we would do something like that. Perhaps I'll have a special broadcast toward the end of Shabbat and do that as well. So I'm gonna try to incorporate the good parts and as many good parts of Jewish tradition. We are commanded in Second Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 15, to hold on to the traditions. Again, it's not in the first five books, but it's something that the original apostles did. They did do certain traditions, and they are commanding us to take hold of that. And I think, matter of fact, Yode Vahe recently inspired me, Kennard, write a book about tradition. So that's another one. So I'm going to write. It's one book I'm completing that I hope is going to help in a mighty way get us unified in all the Sabbath keeping assemblies, and those who are Sunday keeping but want to become a Sabbath keeping assembly. And then I'm going to write another one on how to solve conflict, because how can you have unity if you can't solve your problems? And last but not least, a book on the traditions. What's a good tradition? What's a bad tradition according to the Bible? And I'm going to do a marriage series, but that's going to be a video. I really think that a video would be a better medium than just a book on it. So anyway, that's the blessing of the candles, and we're going to. Here we go. Make sure I don't crowd my wife out there. All right, so we're going to. There's some interesting things that's happening in the world today, so I'm going to go over that, and then what we're going to do. We're going to have a series of Bible studies on the Epistle of Yaakov or James. His Hebrew name is Yaakov or Jacob, which is interesting. And then also his brother, which Jude and James, they both were related to Yeshua. They were his half brother. And it's interesting that you have Jude, and his Hebrew name is Yehuda or Judah, and then you have James, and Hebrew name is Yaakov. So you have Jacob and Judah, and Jacob certainly represents all the tribes, and then of course Judah is the leader of all those tribes. And I find that interesting that their names represent those the tribes of Israel and then Judah. And then when I just realized that when you read what they wrote under the inspiration of Yodevahe, that it has great, and I mean great, prophetic meaning, particularly for people that's living in this century. So I'm gonna talk about those things, leading with hello Don, leading with and Desiree, and leading with the book of James, and then we're going to get into the book of Jude too, because both those epistles right now are very timely based on what's going on in the world and so forth. So I suggest everybody prepare, uh, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically for the next few years, because um, unless things certainly halt, which I don't think they are, things are going to get pretty interesting, pretty biblically interesting here in the next few years. There's talk of the temple being rebuilt again. I've been talking about this for years, ever since God called me into ministry back in 2004. It looks like that's about to happen here. You have the Temple Institute. You guys can go to the Temple Institute. I think it's .org, and it gives you free teachings on the temple. Uh, and you don't need to pay for them. They're all there for you to learn, and they have everything that they need to build the prophesied temple. The way I teach prophecy, ladies and gentlemen, is I kind of simplify it. It's all about what Yeshua said. He said about the abomination of desolation. Uh, when you see the abomination of desolation stand where it ought not, know that the end is near. He said that in Matthew chapter 24, verse 15. Maybe we'll go over that today in light of what we're going to talk about. So let me pray. Eternal Father, thank you so much for giving me this channel, this medium to speak your truth. I know most people will reject it as prophesied, but you're reaching the few that will listen to you. Matthew 7, verse 14, Yeshua, you stated that only the few in this life, before you come back or before the great trouble, will really take you serious. So I take that to heart, and this program is not for the world. It's for, it may be to warn the world, but I know most people are gonna think that your words don't make sense. Most people, but the people who truly listen to what I say and what the few others on the earth that actually are teaching the truth say, they are the ones that you will eventually complete the process and make them a part of the bride of Messiah. So we thank you for that opportunity, and please allow me to speak your words, not mine. And we ask all these things all in your great Son, Yeshua HaMashiach's name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so what we are going to do is take a look at Koenig's website here. Some interesting things going on here. And then I'm going to look at another website. I'm going to spend a little more time than I normally do, because I caught something here about a Middle Eastern war starting, so I need to see what's going on there. And so let me share my screen here, and we're going to begin. All right, so you should be seeing Koenig's website there, and you see, and my wife's going to join me back when she can. You should be able to see that here. Yeah, I did hear about that, Desiree, and that's a good thing, but it also could be a negative thing in the sense that they're pushing the Noahide laws, and we know the Noahide laws really are not based on the Bible. That's the bad part of Jewish tradition. Um, so and a lot of people think Acts 15 was all about that, and when you really study it, it wasn't. So, but the good news is drawing people to the Jews. That's always good when the world recognizes Jews. So that's the good part about it. But we got to be aware of the great deception that is there, that will be there up until the becoming of the Messiah. And so my job is to show you the deception, reveal that to you, so that you won't be tricked by all these people that are given the appearance that they have the truth, and they use truth, but they mix it in with a little false. And so it gets to be a deceptive soup that you drink, unfortunately. And the Bible actually talks about Babylon being an entity where you get drunk, and so forth. So we got to be spiritually awake at all times. One of the ways to be spiritually awake is go to this website. It's a very good website, and he focuses on things primarily that crosses Jerusalem or Jerusalem, but he also covers other world events. But his focus mainly is what's going on in Jerusalem, because he understands the prophecies about that. And so it's Koenig's website, and he used to be a correspondent, so he used to deal with the media and so forth. And so anyway, this top news here, September 13th. Now, keep in mind, 4 days from now will be the unveiling of the New Deal that President Trump has. And what I've heard through the grapevine was that it's a possibility that they would annex the Temple Mount, which would be huge, because what that would do is complete what should have been done. Well, I shouldn't say should have. God wasn't ready for that to happen. That was back in 1967, where they had possession of the Temple Mount, but they gave it to the Muslims, or the Muslims. You can pronounce it either way. And so we've had this lag for 50 years from that point. And so in 1917, you had the Balfour Declaration from the British, allowing the Jews to come back into the land. And then 50 years from that point, you have in 1967, at the end of the war, back then, they got a hold of the Temple Mount. 50 years from that point, you have 2017, toward the end of that, or the beginning of 2018, Donald Trump announced that he would move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem. And so we have, in each of those 50-year periods, you're having the Jews get closer and closer and closer to reestablishing the temple. For them to have a temple, they first have to be in the land. Second of all, they have to get possession of the Temple Mount, which would not have happened if they didn't have that incident back in 1967. It's a possibility, from what I'm hearing, is that in that peace plan, there will also be certain land or property that they would annex, and one of those areas would be the actual Temple Mount, which would be huge, because if the Jews get a hold of the Temple Mount, there's going to be great pressure for them, of course, to build the temple, which the Temple Institute has a lot to do with. For those who have no clue about what I'm talking about, just Google Temple Institute, and then you'll be able to find their website, and you'll be able to review what I'm telling you. That website is prophecy coming alive, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So anyway, Russia prevents Israeli airstrikes in Syria. Again, this is some serious stuff, ladies and gentlemen. This involves Isaiah chapter 17, and the controversy between Israel and Russia regarding airstrikes of Iranian targets in Syria and Iraq continues, despite the meeting between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Russian Prime Minister or President Vladimir Putin. This was reported on Friday by Independent Arabia. According to the report, Moscow has prevented 3 Israeli airstrikes on 3 Syrian outposts recently, and even threatened that any jets attempting such a thing would be shot down either by Russian jets or by the S-400 anti-aircraft missiles. The source cited in the report claims a similar situation has happened twice, and that during August, Moscow stopped an airstrike on the Syrian outpost in Kusan, where a S-300 missile battery is placed. Yes, I know many people don't know this, and you may already know this, that the Ark of the Covenant is under the Temple Mount. They know where it's at, and they will reveal that uh, Ark of the Covenant when at the right time. And so, yeah, I've heard about the underground temple videos. Um, and I actually looked at a video of this one individual that claimed he actually saw the Ark of the Covenant and so forth. But I have heard about, I don't know if it's the exact same ones that you are referring to, but I have looked at some videos. But this temple has to be built. There's Bible prophecies that reveal that it must be built. I'm not going to read the rest of this for lack of time. Here's another headline here. It says September 13th, on the plane home from Sharki with an exhausted Netanyahu and a prediction from Elkin. And so this is about the Israeli elections. They're going to release because whatever's in the plan, I guess Trump thinks it'll influence the election, so and so forth. And so I want to get to this other headline here. Okay. I want to get to this other headline. Let me just stop sharing here and go to another website here. The Economic Collapse blog. Share my screen again. Okay. So you should be able to see that. Let me see if I can widen out here a little bit more here. See the words. There we go. Okay, I don't know why we're having all these other ads here. That's all they ever do on the internet is advertise like crazy. Stop seeing this ad there. Ad was inappropriate. Good. All right, so I'm trying to shrink this down so you guys can see it. Here we go. That's the best I can do here. There we go. All right. The Middle Eastern war begins. Netanyahu warns there is no other choice but to embark on a wide-scale campaign in Gaza. Now, in the book of Zephaniah, it talks about Gaza in an end-time context. Okay. All right. So I will be talking about that maybe a little bit today, certainly next week. And so with elections looming on Tuesday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is warning that Israel has no other choice other than to invade Gaza in order to overthrow the Hamas regime in power there. In fact, the Jerusalem Post is reporting that on Friday. Now, this is interesting. This is all happening around or close to the Festival of Trumpets or Yom Teruah. Okay, and typically major world events have happened around this time, in addition to hurricanes attacking the United States. Anyway, that's another story. So it says, in fact, the Jerusalem Post is reporting that on Friday, Netanyahu said that war could happen at any moment. Now, when is this? This is September 13th. Yeah, this is recent. All right, so this is according to the Jerusalem Post. The Jerusalem Post is a credible news media source. So the prime minister and other Israeli officials are sick and tired of rockets being constantly fired into Israel, and they have come to the conclusion that a peaceful resolution with Hamas is simply not possible. Here in the United States, many on the left, who are the Democrats, right, and the liberals, will criticize Israel for taking military action, but how long would any U.S. president wait before taking military action against a terror group that was firing missiles at us? The truth is that Israel has been exceedingly patient with the situation in Gaza, but now patience has run out. And I guess I'll click this and read a little bit more here. In recent days, Netanyahu has made it exceedingly clear what is about to happen. Here's one example, again, from a credible source, the Jerusalem Post. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned on Thursday that Israel may have no choice but to embark on a military operation in Gaza to overthrow Hamas. I quote, "It looks like there will be no other choice but to embark on a wide-scale campaign in Gaza," end of quote. Netanyahu said in an interview with Kan Reshet Bet Radio shortly before he boarded a flight to Moscow, where he is expected to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin. And here is another quote where he essentially says the exact same thing. He says, I quote, "The There probably won't be a choice but to topple the Hamas regime. Hamas doesn't exert its sovereignty in the Strip and doesn't prevent attacks. End of quote. He said, quote again, we have a situation in which a terror group that launches rockets has taken over and doesn't rein in rogue factions even when it wants to, end of quote. Netanyahu's comments also came 2 days after a campaign rally in the southern city of Ashdod was interrupted by incoming rocket sirens after rockets were fired from the Hamas-run Gaza Strip. Oh, that's okay. That's okay, Debbie. I'm not sure how Netanyahu could be any clearer. Here's the third example. So here's three times. So, folks, I'm not scaring you, or whatever, but we got to watch. And looks like something could erupt. Could. I'm not saying it will, but that's why he tells us to watch. We have to watch and pray. And so right now, it looks like things are heating up here at around the time of the fall festivals. So I quote again, I do not wage war unless it is a last resort, and I don't risk the lives of our soldiers and citizens not just to get applause. Netanyahu said in an interview with Can Reshet Bet Radio. We will probably have no choice but to set out a big campaign of war against the terror forces in Gaza. I quote again, I won't start it 1 minute before we are ready, and we are preparing for a different war, he added, shortly before flying to Russia for a meeting with President Vladimir Putin. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu always chooses his words very carefully. Yeah, I would if I was in his position. He is a gifted communicator. Yes, he is. And we have never seen him talk quite like, okay, I'm going to underscore this again. He is a gifted communicator. That's Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. And we have never seen him talk quite like this before. In the past, Israel has responded to rocket attacks from Gaza by conducting targeted airstrikes, and this is something that we witnessed yet again on Wednesday. Early Wednesday, Israeli jets launched airstrikes on the 15 targets belonging to the Hamas terror group, which rules the Gaza Strip, in response to the rockets fired at Ashdod and Ashkelon, which were intercepted by the Iron Dome air defense system, according to the Israeli Defense Forces, or the IDF. But it has become clear that airstrikes will never be enough to permanently stop the rocket attacks. And so the Israeli government is preparing to initiate a major ground operation inside Gaza. And this is biblical. I'm going to hopefully show you today. The book of Zephaniah talks about, in an end time setting, about Gaza. And Gaza certainly will be involved in end time prophecy. Of course, this could potentially spark a much wider regional war. Israel and Hezbollah have literally been on the brink of war for months. And so if a major conflict erupts, it is easy to envision Hezbollah jumping in to aid their allies in the south. Right now, Hezbollah has approximately 150,000 missiles pointed at Israel, and their troops are battle hardened after fighting for many years in Syria. And if Israel and Hezbollah go to war, there is very strong possibility that Iran could also get it. So this has if God doesn't stop this, World War III is going to occur, ladies and gentlemen. World War III is going to occur if God doesn't stop. And he tends to do this if he's not ready for it to happen. But one of these days, it's going to happen. Just like Yeshua stated. He said, part of the end times, and he really was looking down, I believe, into the 21st century. He was saying basically that you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. And so we hear of rumors of wars all the time, folks. But he also said, if you notice, and I'll show you that scripture, hopefully, if my wife helps, one of you guys remind me, or my wife reminds me, but he stated that among the rumors, there will also be actual wars, okay? And perhaps that's also covering the 20th, I think it's the 20th and 21st century, what he was talking about there. And if Israel and Hezbollah go to war, there's very strong possibility that Iran, which is modern day Persia today, could get involved as well. Basically, we are just a hop, skip, and jump away from a cataclysmic war in the Middle East. And this is one of the reasons why Israel has shown so much restraint. But at some point, action must be taken. No nation is going to allow terrorist organizations to keep firing rockets at their citizens indefinitely. And the Israeli government has had enough. As IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Aviv Kochvi recently stated, there is a, I quote, a moral obligation to defend the nation's citizens against the armies of terrorism that surround them, end of quote. I totally agree. And he says the changes in the enemy demand that the IDF make changes and adjust its forces and methods of warfare so urban areas cannot shield the enemy. The firepower the enemy will encounter in the next war will be unprecedented. Let me underscore that again. The fire, and this is from credible sources, ladies and gentlemen. I try to quote sources that are credible. All right. There's a lot of fake news out there, as our president correctly states. The firepower the enemy will encounter in the next war will be unprecedented. And a country that allows terrorism to entrench itself in its territory will be seen as responsible for it and suffer the consequences, end of quote. Kochavi, or whatever his name is, Kochavi. Kochava warned. Okay. So I quote again, the IDF has a moral obligation to defend the nation's citizens against the armies of terrorism that surround them. When the Israeli home front is under threat by thousands of missiles and rockets, we won't hesitate to strike a massive blow to eradicate those threats. We will attack and preserve our values, but a main tenet of those values is the need to protect our citizens, end of quote. Personally, I doubt that the Israeli military operation will happen before the election on Tuesday, but I could be wrong. And let us also hope that it can be postponed until after the upcoming Jewish holidays. Yes, we should be praying about that. But it is coming, and once Israeli tanks roll into Gaza, everything will change. Global events are about to accelerate significantly, and so many of the things that we have been watching for are about to happen. Both sides have been preparing for this war for a very long time, and the death and destruction will be immense. Things are eerily quiet for the moment, but the fighting will soon commence. And when it does, this will become the biggest news story on the entire planet. And let me add that it's through this war that it's a great possibility that the temple will be built. Remember, in the days of Nehemiah and Ezra, the temple was being built, and while they were rebuilding the temple, the workers had a sword in their hands while they were building. Okay, so we have to understand that don't assume that everything has to be peaceful for the temple to be built. All right, so that's the thing that we need to recognize here. These are very, very exciting times right now in terms of prophecy, in terms of things being fulfilled, and we have to take a serious look at the Bible prophecies, and we need to prepare, first of all, spiritually before we prepare physically. And then we need to get our act together mentally and emotionally. We need to do all of those things to be able to be properly prepared for what's about to happen, ladies and gentlemen. So again, we get these rumors, but one of these days the rumors are not going to be rumors anymore. And so, we're living in a world today, ladies and gentlemen, where many of the people in the Western nations, a good portion of them, don't understand what a marriage is anymore. And we've been murdering our babies legally. They were doing abortions before 1973, but it became legal in this country to do in 1973. And we've been doing that for several years, to the point now where there's 2,000 to 3,000 babies slaughtered every day in this country. You think God is going to sit and just say, hey, that's cool? No. Eventually, he's going to unleash his wrath. And it's coming, ladies and gentlemen. We can't keep on thinking that God is going to continue to allow the massacre of babies to continue on and on and on and on. And then what I believe was the last straw, or close to the last straw, when we, back in 2015, the Supreme Court ruled that marriage can be also between two males and two females. I mean, that's a desecration of his image. I remember when I was a teenager, or in my young 20s, back in Chicago with my friend Nelson, and we never thought that things would get to this point where if we are in a restaurant and talking about gay is not okay, people will look at us like we're crazy now. I mean, you can't even. I mean, corporate America has all changed now. You have gay people walking around and acting gay, and that's supposed to be okay. This world is really, really fulfilling the Bible prophecies as most people are losing their minds. They're losing their minds. And so you have to understand how a society, how a world can fall apart. All we have to do is go back to what happened in the days of Noah, right? What did God say? He stated that every thought, every imagination of their heart was wicked. And I really believe we're close, if not there already. And you can say, well, Kennard, how? Well, if most people, the first thing they think about is themselves, that's wicked in themselves. I mean, the Bible says in Second Timothy chapter 3, the first thing, what the hallmark of the 21st century is people are all about themselves. I mean, people have written about the me generation, me, myself, and I. Yes, everything is unraveling, Debbie, and I didn't think I would talk about this on Shabbat, but it's so important that I need to. Is something that we need to take note of, and it is about the Bible. And one third of the Bible, 33% of it is about prophecy in the Torah portions. Um, yeah, well, that's the history, John Wayne or Alan, of mankind. I mean, we really don't listen. And yeah, I really believe when we're fathers and we spank our children, it's kind of prophetic of what God does to us in an adult fashion, in a mature fashion. And just like a little kid, you tell them no, and then they look at you and smile and keep on doing it, right? Well, you got to spank them. That's about it. Said you don't love them if you don't spank them. And I've been around other families, and my wife, yeah, she's coming back here. My wife can attest to this. She's going to be joining us when she can, and you can attest to this. That I mean, how many families really? Let's be honest. Just tell them. I mean, how many families in this movement? And we've been in this movement since a long time. I mean, over 30 years. Um, how many families have really followed the Shema that train their kids in the right way? We did that, okay, and we're not bragging. We just did what God told us to do. And Kennard, everybody thinks the world of him. We just met a coworker of his. He said he's a nice kid. That's all I hear. He's a nice kid or a nice young man. And only I don't know if we got any credit at all. I mean, on the fact we chose to obey and we just followed the principles in the Bible and raised Kennard according to what the Bible said. That's all we did. I'm being totally honest. My wife is backing me up here. I mean, that's all we did, and it's really when they're doing that, they're actually praising God. Because all we did was just we read the Bible to him every day when he was young. We talked about, I mean, even today we always, when we meet him, we talk about God. We always remind him about God, and it's working. He's maturing and he's becoming wiser and more righteous as an individual. And so, but there's not that many that I know of that actually. I mean, what we saw a lot. We saw them allowing their kids to run around doing services. They wouldn't spank them. They wouldn't do anything. They just let them do what they want to do. And we still see that today.
We do.
And then we try to gently correct, and then they look at us like we're crazy. And I think we are qualified. Look at our son. Look at how he acts. Whenever my son got out of line, I spanked his little behind, and it worked.
That's true.
It worked. And he understands that, and I told him, when you get married, you're going to have to spank your kids too. And if you need help, I'll come over. Grandfather come over there and spank those kids too. So spanking, and here's another thing. Spanking, we have Dr. Spock, right? That was his name, right?
You're right.
Yeah. He came out with that crazy book to say that you shouldn't spank your kid. Time out does not work, folks. I've seen it. It don't work. Now, you may have some exceptional kids that, and some people are blessed to have kids like that. They're just obedient most of the time and everything. Well, more than likely, you're not going to get those kids in most cases. But sometimes people are blessed to have kids. They're just receptive to orders, and they take it. But if you don't have them type of kids, timeout is not going to work, folks. Okay, and more than likely, you're not going to have those type of kids. Okay, yeah. Dr. Spock. He came out with that ridiculous, idiotic book that discourages spanking. And I can't even talk about that in a restaurant without people thinking, "Oh, you abuse your child." So it's just the reason why I'm talking about that is because on a higher level, on an adult level, the way he spanks adults, and if you guys want to do a mini study on that personally, Isaiah chapter 3, if you read that whole chapter, the beginning of it, that's how he takes away the stay of bread, which means he takes away, he causes problems, and he causes it to be more difficult for you to make a living. That's how he generally spanks adults. That's how he does it. Okay, and that's right. Yeah, Spock knew everything, nothing. So anyway, but and the way God's going to spank us, lady, the way He's going to spank mankind, and as in Isaiah chapter 13, verse 11, He's going to punish the world, okay, for their evil. That's what He states. And for people that think the world's not evil, and you got some quackpots that actually think the world's not evil. And when I mean the world, the way we live, the way society lives. Not everybody is wicked. You got some people that a few, as the Bible says, that aren't. But the vast majority, and a lot of us, because of ignorance, they don't know right from wrong. They weren't taught properly by their parents and their parents and their parents and their parents and their parents. This goes all the way back, and they weren't taught, Yeah, well, like I said, it all is credit to God, and he's doing well financially, amazingly to be 24. But like I said, my son is an example, and he's not the only example, but he's a major example that God exists, because he was a premature baby, a 2-pound baby. He could fit on my hand. That's how small he was. Okay, and so when I looked at him, I said, only God's going to be able to allow him to live. So if God wants him to be alive, then he will be. But I didn't want to tell her because I didn't want to get her all upset. So you learn, you keep your mouth shut in certain situations. So basically,
I did have him anointed though.
Yeah, he was anointed.
From the hospital,
he was anointed. That
he
helped
had to
too.
stay in the hospital for like 4 months. He was 4 pounds.
Yeah.
And then once he was 4 pounds, I was able to bring him home, and he was anointed. And after that, the doctors even thought that maybe he would have some severe mental disability. But after that anointing, he was a straight A student.
I've never seen a child
with honor.
Yeah, I've never seen him get a B. He's always getting an A. I really couldn't say that about anybody that I know. I'm glad I can say it about my son.
All credit goes to the Lord.
And I know why. I mean, I get A's now, but I know the reason why I didn't. I had so much mess going on in my life, and I wasn't raised in God's ways. But when you raise a child in God's way, and if you really follow the Shema, to do it when you rise up, when you sit down, when you walk by the way, if you just do that, in most cases, because you do have your Satans, unfortunately, but in most cases it works. And when I mean you have your Satans, Satan had the perfect father, right? But he still rebelled. So sometimes, no matter what you do, they make the choice, and there's nothing you can do about that.
That's true.
And you have to just deal with it. That happened to the prophet Samuel. He had 2 rogue sons, unfortunately.
And Eli.
And Eli too. Well, Eli, in all fairness, he had something to do with it. He didn't really discipline his children, and so that's the reason why they end up being devils. And see, when they get resurrected, he's going to hold Eli responsible more so than those kids. So yeah, it's being a father and a mother is a huge responsibility. And I tell you now, on the authority of God and the Bible, if you don't follow the Shema, if you don't train your kids in the way they should go, they will forget it. And there's a scripture that says they won't forget it, but if you don't train them at all, they're not going to have anything to forget because you didn't teach them anything. That's what I meant. And so, it's a very serious thing, marriage. Most people, when they get married, they have kids or a child. And you have to prepare for that. And I've heard people say, you can't prepare for that. You can't prepare. That's a bunch of whatever. I mean, you can prepare for that. You have to prepare to get married. You have to prepare to have children. It's a very serious commitment. And it's not something to be looked upon because, oh, I want to have sex. No, I mean, if that's why you want to get married, don't get married. I mean, it's more than that, much more than that. So, but anyway, that's another study altogether. But see what you guys are saying here. They can get what they, neither can we. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Joseph is another fine example of, he's been with us thick and thin through all the bad parts of our ministry. When we had a flowing ministry, we had a good bunch of people. And right now we're, and I really believe it's because of the wickedness of this world and people not wanting to submit to the Bible that they really don't want to hear what I have to say here in Columbus. So it's just, but I'm not going to give up. I'm going to still look at ways to attract people that we haven't reached before, so just be praying that we can do that. He said they can't give what they don't have. And okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. They can't give what they don't have. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And so I'm gonna go ahead and get the Bible out here. We're going to do a study. What time is it, Sheree? It's 8:41. Okay, we got plenty of time. Okay. What I'm gonna look at some of the prophecies about what it says about Gaza, though, and yeah, I'm in Columbus, Ohio. I'm in Columbus, Ohio, which is it's a vibrant city. It's a good city, and we pretty much visited most of the most popular Hebrew roots congregations. They don't like us, so and I don't care. I hope that they get this because it's the truth. They know they don't like us. Okay, they don't either like us. They don't understand us. Though. We love them though, but they don't like me. What I say and so forth, and they get tired of it eventually. So that's just the way it is. But that's prophesied to be. He stated in Luke chapter 6, woe when everyone thinks well of you. So, so I must be doing something right because I don't expect everyone to think well of me, because there's always going to be somebody, well, it's more than one that don't like. Yeah, I do have an assembly. Yeah, I do have an assembly. Right now is basically virtual, but I do have, it's my wife, my son, Joseph, he's a deacon. I have two other people. One of them, they have to stay inside because she's having seizures like 40 a day, which is incredible. And then another one, Melissa, she's also has health issues, so they can't really get out normally. If they could, they would be fellowshipping with us. And then I have, it's my ministry is. We used to have around 20 people that we. Because we combined with another one ministry, and then they kind of tapered off when I told them things out the Bible, and then they didn't want to comply to it, and then they looked at me, and really their beef was with God, and then they left. So that was the general trend, right over the. And then one of them wanted me to merge with another ministry because. I guess I didn't fulfill all what he wanted. I guess he was looking at people, and the more people, the better, right? Well, that's not the case. It's not about the people. It's about the quality of teaching you're getting and so forth. So in the end, the Messiah only had 12 people that followed him. So I think I'm doing pretty good. So
in the world,
based on that. Yeah, the world hated him. Yeah, John 7:7, he said the world hated me. So I'm expecting the world to hate me.
They're going to hate you.
And you are, Don. See, my wife, she has a lot of wisdom in certain areas, and it may be that he wants me to focus on the internet now, because I started the ministry as an internet ministry, and then later on I branched off into fellowshipping with the local ministries here, or I tried to anyway, until they didn't like what I was saying or whatever. And then I started in 2011, and then it started out great, and then we've had, it's like a revolving door. People come, people go, and people sign up on the meetup website, and they say they're going to come, and then they don't come, or it's just all kinds of stuff that's going on. So I'm going to really reevaluate what I'm doing, and I'm reading a book now to start another program that I hope works. So I hope it does. Oh, you're in Lake Erie. Okay, so that's you're up there near Michigan then, right? So that's good. Yeah, we will welcome you if you like to visit and so forth. But Columbus is a tough market for Sabbath keeping ministries. I'll tell you that right now. The one that we may start fellowshipping with occasionally, they only have about 20 people in there. So it's tough. I mean, I think people in this area, they just, I don't know, they got a problem with the Sabbath and keeping the Sabbath, and that's what we've experienced. I mean, it's just a very difficult environment. Oh, he's in Canada. Okay, I didn't know that. All right. Oh, Desiree is in Ohio. Okay. All right. So it's tough, but just be praying. We're implementing another program here that hopefully we can add about 15 or 20 people. I'm hoping by the end of next year. To our ministry. So that's, and I'm not looking at getting 200 people. If I wanted people, I don't know exactly what to do. Just give them what they want to hear. But I'm not going to do that. I mean, I'm a marketing guy. I know how to do that. But I'm going to do it Yodevahe's way. I'm going to preach his truth. And, God is looking for people who want to die for him, die for his truth. We're not looking for people who just want a social club and want to eat and go home. I mean, we're not looking for that. But my ministry certainly is nothing to laugh about online. And I have over 5,000 likes on my Facebook page, and a lot of that is third world countries and people in India and Africa, South Africa, all over the world. And so, as far as my online presence, is nothing to laugh at. Is nothing that's small. I've had issues, and the Bible prophesied that this to be the case, of trying to build a local ministry, because Yeshua had the same problem. I mean, people left him when he said, "Oh, this teaching is too hard," And so I'm following the pattern, So, but I'm not going to give up. I'm going to try to see if we can find a few good men and women here in the Columbus area. I believe it's possible. We just got to go in another direction we've never gone into. And that's what we're going to do. So just be praying that we can do that. Yeah, and that's what's going on right now. They're going to church, and that's what we're going to target, by the way. We're going to target church people without going into too much detail. But we're going to just go and target the new wine bottles. That's what we're going to do, and I think that we may have some success doing that. But what we're going to do here, let me go get the scriptures out before I forget here, before I start talking about the struggles of ministry. Let's pull this up here and get my scriptures out here. All right. Oops. Messed up. There we go. And let me put the text so it can be large. All right, so here's my sword. There's our sword that we need to overcome the devil. Yes, I'm all over the internet, Desiree. I mean, if you just type in Kennard, Kennard, Levi, Levi Brown, I'm all over the internet. Merciful Servants of God. I have a YouTube channel that I'm getting ready to start uploading some interesting videos, and so forth. I'm studying video production. Location info, yes, it's all online. if you go to meetup.com, let me type this in here. What is what? It's meetup.com/Mercer. Let me type it in. This is the website that I use. Let me type this in here. Stop sharing my screen for a minute here. Just type this in here. HTTP and then meetup.com, merciful servants of God. Okay, that's the website that I use for people to go to. If you just click on that, it'll take you to that. If I spelled it right, yeah, I think I did. Let me make sure I did. I think I did. Let me just go here and make sure. Yeah. Yep. And I can show it to you here. Let me just go there. Let me just stop sharing my screen here with this other thing, and then I'll share my screen with it. And we're not in any rush. That's what I like about Friday night. I'm not in a rush. I can relax. I can just do things in a relaxed fashion here without being rushed. So anyway, this is what the site looks like. It should be popping up on the screen here. All right, this is what it looks like. I used to have like how many, like 200, 150, whatever, and it gave people the impression. And I wasn't trying to be deceitful or whatever. It was true that I had 150 members, but I think people assumed that these people were fellowshipping with us, and they weren't. What they would do, they would just sign up, and that's that, you know. So, and most of them wouldn't come, and I think a lot of them, they would just maybe looking for a mate or something, because I think Meetup a lot of times is looked upon as being something like that. But there's other churches that actually use Meetup. I'm one of them, and you can see there, you know, what we're about. And I talk about the Sabbath, and I have an article introducing people if they never heard about the Sabbath before, and so forth. So this is and anybody can join us, whether or not you're out of town or whatever. And the people that we want to be on our online group are people that want us to teach them every week and so forth. But if you just want to casually fellowship with us, then we don't suggest that you join our group. So the group is just for people who want me to teach them, want me to respect the ministry, want to support the ministry. And so that's what it is for, although we don't deny anyone from fellowshipping with us, but we prefer those who want to just casually, it's like locally, if you just want to show up once every blue moon, then don't sign up, just contact us, let us know, and then we'll let you know where we're fellowshipping at. And so, and then what we do, we have people fellowship at it's a beautiful area in Granville Heights, Ohio. We are able to reserve a room every week where we have people fellowship with us. We haven't had lately anybody sign up that want to fellowship with us. So right now we're temporarily fellowshipping at our home. And I'm going to be implementing another marketing program. When I say marketing, it's not to get money. It's just to let people know we exist in the Columbus, Ohio area. And I'm hoping from there we'll be able to get a new influx of people. So I'm telling you guys this so that you can pray for the success of that. So, all right. So anybody, whether you're in Columbus, Ohio, outside, you can request to join. And that's our Shabbat Bible study. It'll be on our home this week. And we always have the Facebook live stream, which is September 14th at 3:00. And so when you sign up and request to join, you'll get notifications to remind you of when that happens. Sometimes the time changes. I'm going to be going out of town soon, so it could change, and you'll get notified of that. And so, yeah, I do have Facebook. Let me show you my fact. I'm all over the place. Let me show you. I do have Facebook. I'm glad you're asking. And this is good that people know my social media presence, because I do have a presence. And so let me go back and show you my Facebook page. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so you should be able to see the Facebook page now. I'm about to log in. So that's my, it's facebook.com/Kennard Levy Brown. Okay. And so when I log in, this is my Facebook page, Lapet Judaism. And then over here is my group page. And as you can see, the group page, I have 99 active members on the group page. And so as you can see, my virtual ministry is thriving. Okay, that's why I'm thinking, and my wife is thinking too, that perhaps he may want me to focus virtually and do what Yeshua did. Yeshua, he had his own ministry. It was small, but he still fellowshiped with the local ministries. And that may be something that he may want us to do. And so we'll see. But we're going to try to see if we can build our local ministry here. If not, we're just going to focus on the virtual. And so as you can see, that's my latest broadcast there. You can see over here I have 99 members. And if you want to join this group, I think it's facebook.com groups Merciful Service of God. And then you type that in there, and then I can put you in the group. And then I know for those who don't have a Facebook, you may want to consider creating a Facebook page. It's free. So you can have access to my teachings and get notified of when I am teaching. Because I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff where I'm going to be live streaming simultaneously with YouTube, Facebook, and other channels as well. Yeah, I mean, that's the best, Desiree, is to be able to gather with people. But if you can't gather with people, the next best thing is to do it virtually with the technology that we have today. And so my Facebook page is over here. This is my Facebook page. And I have 5,109 likes on this page, and it has all my videos and everything else on here. So that's my Facebook presence. And then let me show you my YouTube channel. Let me show that to you. YouTube channel. Okay, so here's my YouTube channel. Then after this, we'll get to the Bible study here. All right, so this is my YouTube channel. And then as soon as you go to this channel, you see what is pure worship and so forth. And I have all the Messianic Lamb radio archives right here. And then I have a website, but I don't have the, I need to get into the Bible study right now. And I'm actually trying to update the website. But I can show you one more though. I'll show you one more, and then we'll get to the Bible study here. Okay, and this is called a landing page. I designed this page, and what this page does is hopefully influence people to get my free ebook, Discover God's Fantastic Plan for Mankind. Get a free ebook. And so then it has the video there at the bottom. So, and I have other websites, but I don't have time to go over all of it. But I certainly have an internet presence. So that's what I wanted to show you. And again, it may be that he want me to focus more on that. I don't know. So we'll find out. All right. So let me go ahead and share my screen here again, and we get to the Bible here. All right. And so anyway, we talked about Gaza, right? So I'm going to read a scripture about Gaza, what it says about Gaza anyway, in Zephaniah. Okay. All right, so the judgment on Yehuda's enemies, all right? So in Zephaniah 2, verse 1, it says, gather yourselves together. Yes, gather together, O nation not desired, before the decree. And see, this is important because it sets this Gaza stuff right before the tribulation, okay? And Zephaniah 2, verse 2, it says, before the decree bring forth, before the day pass as a shaft, before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you. And so this warning is before that happens. And he says in verse 3, seek ye the Lord, all you meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment, that seek righteousness. There's nothing wrong with seeking to be right. There's nothing wrong with trying to obey all of his commandments. Seek meekness. What did God say about Moshe? That he was the most humble man on the earth, right? It may be you shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger. I think everybody would like that. Now, this is interesting. And what was I just reading in the news about Ashkelon and Ashdod, right? The Bible's talking about those things. For Gaza shall be forsaken, and it has, and Ashkelon a desolation. They shall drive out Ashdod at the noonday, and Ekron shall be rooted up. Woe unto the inhabitants of the sea coast, the nation of the Cherethites. The word of the Lord is against you, O Canaan, the land of the Philistines, which is certainly talking about the Palestinians today. I will just even destroy thee, that there shall be no inhabitants. Okay, so if you just read the rest of this, I don't have time to go through this, but he does say that the area of Jordan one day, surely Moab shall be as Sodom, and the children of Ammon as Gomorrah. All right, so this is very interesting. So this is a good chapter to study in light of what's going on here with the Gaza area. And so what I'm going to talk about today, and another scripture that I was referring to when Yeshua talked about in verse 3. He says, and as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, that's across from the Temple Mount, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, tell us, when shall these things be? What shall be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age of the world? And in verse 4, and Yeshua answered and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. So that's the first thing that came out of his mouth. Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Messiah, and shall deceive many. What this means is that people are going to come in his name and teach deception. And he said many people will do that, and they are today. Now, the verse I want to get to is verse 6, and he says, and you shall hear, like we are now, hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled. And many people are troubled, and he's telling you, don't worry about it. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Verse 7, for nation or goyim, this is really meaning family, or people shall rise against people, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines, pestilence, and earthquakes in various places. And so we're at verse 6 and 7 right now, basically, in terms of prophecy. And we need to be praying for Jerusalem, for the people of Israel. We need to pray that God's will be done in this situation. So, what I'm going to do is go over the book of Yaakov or James here. And, I use the King James Version because it's the most popular version in the world, and most people don't know um, Hebrew to the point of being able to pronounce it properly and so forth. I'm still learning it myself, so but I know it well enough to be able to read the Hebrew um, as best as I can. And so anyway, we're going to go over the book of James, and I wanted to show something else, but I'll show it to you later on, I guess. But the book of James begins with an interesting statement. And remember, this is Yeshua's brother, half-brother, James. His Hebrew name is Yaakov or Jacob, which is interesting because the King James Version was organized by what? King James, right? And so really it was King Jacob. So anyway, Yaakov 1 verse 1. Yaakov is servant of Yodevahi and of the Master Yeshua to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. Greeting. Now this is interesting because many people say, "Oh, this is talking about just the Jews." No, Yaakov or Jacob knew that the 12 tribes were scattered around the world or abroad. And so this epistle is certainly addressed primarily to the 12 tribes wherever they're at today. That's why it's important to find out who they are. I'm going to mention it briefly during this maybe 4, 5, 6 week Bible study. Okay. And in verse 2, he states, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall unto temptation." And so how many people are left? Ain't not too many people. Only got one person left. They got tired. I guess there's only one person. Oh, 6 people. Okay, I guess the chat thing is wrong here. Because I have it like just one person there. So, yours got 6. I guess there's something wrong with mine, I guess. All right, so anyway. And so he says, count it all joy when now this is difficult, folks, okay? I'm trying to count it all joy when I fall into temptation, but be praying that I can count it all joy one day or do it consistently. And so anyway, in verse 3, knowing this, that the trying of your faith works patience. And so that's important. Okay, you're there. I just wanted to check and make sure. And so he says the trying of your faith, imuna, works patience. And so that's something we all got to work on. But he states that when Yodevahi tests our faith, that it works patience. And then verse 4 is one of my favorite scriptures. Okay. It says, but let patience have her perfect work. And so there's a complete work involved in having patience, that you may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. Now, understand that, this epistle is for everyone. The Bible's for everybody, but certainly it's addressed specifically to who the 12 tribes of Israel are today. Now, in simplest definition, the 12 tribes of Israel consist of Jews and Christians, but I can break it down further. Okay, it really is referring to the Western nations and the little land of Israel in the Middle East. And of course, anyone that believes in Jesus being the Messiah, they get grafted into the Commonwealth of Israel. Isn't it interesting that the British called their empire the Commonwealth? Where did they get that from? They got it from the Bible, right? The Commonwealth of Israel. So anyway, that's a little hint. Now, for those who have ever heard of British Israelism, most people, when they talk about that, they don't have a clue about what that is in terms of the bad part of it. British Israelism is the doctrine of preaching that the British people are superior than anyone else and all that, and it's a racist doctrine But there's another part of it that's not racist. And that's the part that I preach. Okay. And so if you want more information about this, you need to go to Yair Davidi's website, www.britam.org. I know in the Hebrew Roots movement, they talk about two house, which is true, but there's a deeper teaching to that two house teaching. There's actually three houses that God is concerned with. And let me show this to you in Jeremiah chapter 36. Jeremiah chapter 36, verse 2. He states here to the prophet Jeremiah. Okay. So he says, take thee a roll of a book. And he's talking to the prophet Jeremiah, Yodevahi is. And right there in all the words that I have spoken against Israel, so that's the house of Israel, against Judah, those are the Jews, and against all the nations. So there's three segments of the world that he's concerned with. The house of Israel, which are those 10 tribes that were supposedly lost. Against Judah, the house of Judah consists of today of Levi, Judah, and Benjamin. And against all the nations, that's everyone else. And so there's three segments of the world that Yodevahi is talking about. Yeah, two sticks. Ezekiel chapter 37, and maybe I'll go to that today. Yeah, I will go to that. All right, let's go to Ezekiel chapter 37. Our Jewish brethren, a lot of them just don't understand this prophecy. You know, they don't understand it, but we need to pray that they do. But there are some Jews that actually do understand it, and Yair Davidi is one of them. Ezekiel 37, verse 15, the word of the master came unto me, saying, moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick. I'm going to go slow with this. One stick, and write upon it for Yehudah, those are the Jews, and for the children of Israel, his companions. Take another stick, and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel, his companions. So when you see Ephraim in the Bible prophecies, a lot of times it's referring to those 10 tribes of Israel. Okay. In verse 17, and join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in thy hand. In verse 18, and when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, will thou not show us what you mean by these? In verse 19, and he said unto them, thus says the master, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel, his fellows, and put them with him, even the stick of Yehudah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand. Okay, and that has not happened yet, and you get some people earnestly teaching that it has, and it hasn't. Ephraim really consists of Christians that don't have the desire to want to keep the Torah. Yehudah consists of Jews who keep the Torah, but they reject, of course, most of them anyway, the Messiah. And so one day they're both going to be combined, the good parts of them and the bad parts will be thrown out, and there will be one happy nation of Israel again in the future. But that's occurring, but it hasn't occurred yet where the process is complete yet. That will be fulfilled in the future. And so in Ezekiel 37, verse 20, it says, and the sticks where thou write shall be in thy hand before their eyes, and say unto them, thus says the master, behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whether they be gone, or will gather on every side and bring them into their own land. This has not happened. This prophecy has not been totally fulfilled yet. You have even some Jews understanding that all of Ephraim is not back yet. And so in verse 22, and I will make them one nation in the land of the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all. And that, as you're going to see, is King David. And they shall be no more two nations. Right now, they're two nations, or two groups. Neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any longer. And right now, they still are. Jews and Christians are divided, aren't they? They should be together, worshiping together. Verse 23, neither shall, under the Messiah, neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions, but I will save them out of all their dwelling places wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their God. And David, so King David will be resurrected. So, and David, my servant, shall be king over them, and they shall have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgment and observe my statutes and do them. Yehuda and Ephraim combined don't all observe his statutes and judgments, but this will happen in the future. In verse 25, and they shall dwell in the land that I have given unto Jacob my servant, wherein your fathers have dwelt, and they shall dwell therein, they and their children and their children's children forever. And my servant David shall be their prince forever. Moreover, I will make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them. And I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary in the midst of them forevermore. My tabernacle shall also be with them. Yes, I will be their Yodevah, and they shall be my people. And the heathen shall know that I, the master, do sanctify Israel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore. So this is a prophecy that will happen in the future. Okay, so he talks about the tribes of Israel and their issues here, all right? And they have an issue with patience and then wisdom. In verse 5, we're asking verse 4, let their patience have perfect word, that you may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. In verse 5, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of Yodevah, that giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not, and it shall be given unto him. But let him ask in faith. So don't ask doubting, nothing wavering, for he that wavereth is like a wave of the sea, driven with the wind and tossed. For let not that man think that he shall receive anything of the master. A double-minded man or woman is unstable in all his or her ways. Verse 9, let the brother of low degree rejoice in that he is exalted, but the rich in that he is made low, because as the flower of the grass he shall pass away. Verse 11, for the sun is no sooner risen with a burning heat, but it withereth the grass, and the flower thereof falleth, and the grace of the fashion of it perisheth. So also shall the rich man fade away in his ways. And it's interesting, this bringing up rich, as you will understand, that many of the tribes of Israel, all of them really, are the wealthiest of all groups of people worldwide, as you're going to find out during this Bible study. And so verse 12, blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the master has promised to them that love him. Verse 13, let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, neither does he tempt any man. Verse 14, but every soul, you know who the tempter is the devil, not God. Verse 14, but every man is tempted when he is drawn away. So this is the process of sin. Listen up. So every man or woman is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. So verse 15, when the lust has conceived, it brings forth sin. And sin, when it is finished, brings forth death. And so the way to avoid sinning is to fight the temptation. Get the temptation out of your mind. Verse 16 of Yaakov chapter 1, do not err, my beloved brethren. Verse 17, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. Verse 18, of his own will begat he us with the word of truth. And this is interesting. He alludes, Yaakov alludes to us being the bikurim of the first fruits of his creatures. All right, we are his bride. We are the first fruits. We're going to be resurrected first if we endure unto the end. Verse 19. Wherefore, my brethren, let every man be swift to hear. Boy, this is admonition for everyone, including myself. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. For the wrath of man works not the righteousness of Yodevah. Verse 21. Wherefore lay apart all filthiness and superfluity of naughtiness, and receive with meekness. And so we have to receive the word of God, not with arrogancy. Oh, I know this. Oh, I know that. Oh, I know it. I know what he's going to say. I know this. I know that. No, we receive with meekness the engrafted word, which is able to save your soul. Now, this is a pretty interesting scripture. We hear that again. Many preachers preach like obedience has nothing to do with salvation, and I see this is one of the scriptures that It's like, wait a minute. Did you read this? It says, wherefore lay apart all filthiness and superfluity of naughtiness, and receive with meekness the engrafted word, which is able to save your souls. And it says the engrafted word, which is able to save your souls. Again, it says the engrafted word, which is able to save our lives. Verse 22. But be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. And that's a common trend that goes on too. For if any be a hearer of the word and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his natural face in the glass. For he beholdeth himself and goeth his way, and straightway forgetteth what manner of man or woman he is. Verse 25. But whosoever looketh into the perfect Torah, or instructions of liberty, and continues therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man or woman shall be blessed in his or her deed. If any man among you seem to be religious, and does not control his mouth or her mouth, but deceives his or her own heart, this man or woman's religion is vain. So he's saying, if you can't control your mouth, your religion is vain. And then in verse 27 of James, which is a very powerful scripture, pure religion, and this word religion means worship in Koine Greek, and undefiled before God and the Father is this: to visit the fatherless and the widows in their affliction, and to keep himself or herself unspotted from the world. So we have to do both. This is pure worship to God when we visit the fatherless and the widows. In other words, those who can't take care of themselves in their affliction. And when we keep ourselves unspotted from the world, in other words, we keep ourselves from being contaminated with the wickedness of society. And so this is, even though the Bible wasn't originally written in chapters, this is chapter 1 of Yaakov, introductory to telling you what the epistle is addressed to. Is addressed to all the 12 tribes of Israel, as you're going to find out. Is addressed to Western society, as you're going to find out. This book, the book of Yaakov, is prophetic, and I'm going to show that to you in the weeks ahead. And so anyway, we're going to stop here, and we're going to pick up next week with this. And so for those who want to listen to me tomorrow on Facebook, if you have access to Facebook, I'm going to start at 3 o'clock. I go over the Torah, I summarize the Torah readings, and then I do a Bible study. I'm doing a Bible study on the epistles of John or Yaakov. All right, so I'm going to do the priestly blessing, the Birkat Kohanim. I'm going to say it in Hebrew and in English, and then I'm going to sign off and be praying that I can make it next week. Yevabaraka Adonai Yishmereka, Ya Adonai Panav Eleka, Yishchakneka, Yisha Adonai Panav Eleka, V'yasem Lecha Shalom. May God bless you and safeguard you. May God show kindness and be gracious to you. May God turn his countenance to you and establish shalom or peace for you. Yeah, thank you so much, and look forward to providing another teaching next week. Shabbat shalom.